Civil Defense, Meridian, The Defiant, Fascination, and Past Tense. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and if you recognized what those were titles of Deep Space Nine Season 3 episodes. And today we're doing a review special of the entirety of Deep Space Nine Season 3. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a wild ride. How you doing today, Cirroc?
Doing good. Excited about this Season 3 review.
Yeah, because I'm going to be honest here. I guess that implies that I'm not usually honest, but I'm going to be honest here. When we're reviewing Season 1 and Season 2, there are a couple episodes that what is like what Gandalf said, I have no memory of this place. Most of the episodes, not only do I remember the episode, but I remember us reviewing it and what we said and the laughs we had. But there are a couple episodes in seasons 1 and 2 that we're like, was this the episode that was this was a Bajoran? I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I really want to kind of do a rewatch of the first couple of seasons.
Totally.
Because those episodes were like vague for me. I don't know why they don't register as hard as now this third season.
Yep.
I'm recognizing the episodes and I'm remembering the storyline and saying, okay, I remember that. So at some point in season 3, at least from what our first review now, that's the one where it starts to click for me.
Yeah, me too. I think it's just because, season 1, we were hanging out with Aaron and we're having fun with just the three of us, joking, laughing. Aaron was doing a great job of reminding you of certain episodes. Because remember, you were 13 when this started. He was an adult. Yeah. So he remembers it much more clearly, of course. So he would refresh your memory. You guys would tell stories. And, there was a lot of camaraderie that, that first season and a lot of laughs, and a lot of fun. The second season was us kind of fumbling and figuring out our way without Aaron. And so I think that's part of the reason why we don't specifically remember the episodes. And also part of it was because it was 3 years ago. I mean, it was a while ago. It was 3 years. Yeah. A lot of people may know this, but a lot has happened over the last 2 or 3 years. Like we've had pandemics, we've had wars. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that's going on. So you'll forgive us if we don't remember exactly, but it's one of those things where as soon as the episode starts to play, it would jog our memory.
Right. Yeah. The whole second season for us was just trying to pick up the pieces after Aaron transitioned. And I think that's part of the fog for me in that second season. I think we just breezed through it without really letting the episodes soak in as much as now I'm seeing the third season starting to really pop out at me. Even with the first 2 episodes, which is a 2-parter. They started the second season in a 3-parter. Yeah. And the third season is in a 2-parter with the Search Part 1 and Search Part 2. And I do remember these episodes because of the Defiant and, the cloaking of the Defiant, and a lot of these other new narratives that are starting to come along.
Yeah, Deep Space Nine was a lot more considerate than the Next Generation. Next Generation, they love to put a 2-parter, bridging the gap between 2 seasons. So the last episode of a season was the first part of the 2-parter. And then you had to wait the entire summer to see the second part, right? Whereas Deep Space Nine was like, we're going to be nicer about this. We're going to give you the 2-parter to start the season. So don't even worry about it. That's 1 week is a lot easier to wait than 3 months or 4 months or whatever it was. But it was The Search Part 1 and 2. They were both rated very high on IMDb. This was September 26, 1994 and October 3rd, 1994. And this was when, like you said, the Defiant, we finally see the Defiant. I say finally, but really it was only 2 seasons without it. So we find out about the Defiant and the cloaking device. We find out about Odo's homeworld and the founders That's just a lot of information.
It's a lot of information. And one thing that I think they do with this season is just by having the Defiant in general, that expands the show's potential for exploration and gives them so much more mobility as far as storyline is concerned. Yep. And then we also see character development with Odo and the founders, and kind of the expansion of who are these Dominion and what are they about? Who are the founders? Mm-hmm. So this season really lays that kind of starts getting into the weeds of what they're setting up with the Dominion.
Yeah, and it's a great two-parter. Very, very good two-parter. I mean, Deep Space Nine really hit the ground running. With the pilot episode, with the first 3 episodes of the second season, the first 2 episodes of the third season. I mean, they didn't take any weeks off, these writers. They really were pushing the envelope to try to make this the biggest and best show it could be. The third episode was also very highly rated. The House of Quark. Quark is forced to marry a Klingon widow, Grilka, right? After he takes credit for the accidental death of her husband, the head of a powerful Klingon house.
Yeah. I remember this episode as well. This was when Quark was trying to look like a badass and making it look like he killed this Klingon.
Yeah.
And when he realized that what that meant in the long run, he actually should not have said that, and he bit off a lot. And Grilka was great in this episode, and the whole trial of Quark, I thought was a great episode. It was a good episode, very memorable.
Who played it? Mary something, was it? Mary Kay Adams, that's who it is. Yeah, she was awesome. And she came back in a later episode as well, as you well remember. But that was good stuff. That was one of the first glimpses we saw of Quark being not such a bad guy, just being like, oh, look at Quark getting some character development. You know, it's pretty good. Good stuff. The next one, episode 4, was Equilibrium. The Trill homeworld is the setting as Sisko and Bashir take Jadzia home for treatment when she begins experiencing hallucinations after playing a tune that she can't recall. Equilibrium. This was directed by Cliff Bowl, by the way. How well do you remember this one? The 2 or 3 Trill episodes are a little fuzzy for me, but they're always about past lives, you know, past hosts.
Yeah, this one doesn't stand out so much for me, but I do kind of have a vague memory of that tune that was in her head and it being connected to somebody who was a songwriter or a musician of some sort, right?
Yep. Yeah, and she also ends up going swimming in that, it was like that milky pool. Remember, she's like going around through this like milk of magnesia thing or something like that. I don't know.
Okay.
In a cave.
Yeah.
Something about Verad. Verad was anyway. Yeah, that one was not the most highly rated episode, but it's got memorable imagery. Like for me, I remember, we very clearly remember the scenes with the tune, where there's that tune playing and she doesn't know where it comes from, and then there's that moment where she's swimming in the milk. You know, like these are things that like stick out. So even if the theme or the story doesn't stand out as much, it certainly gives us the impression of, you know, certain scenes and certain ideas that, you know, we'll always remember. At least I'll always remember her, seeing her in that weird milk bath. I don't know what that was.
Yeah.
It was like their magic Trill place. Remember there was like the electro shocks of the symbionts going, I don't know. It was really weird.
Yeah. And I'm seeing the pictures and it's funny because I don't remember it as much, even though I'm looking at the photographs here
Blocked it
of
out.
that episode in the pool. Yeah. And you would think I would remember Dax in a milk bath wearing this white outfit, but no, I don't. It's crazy.
Now, episode 5, though, this is another very memorable episode. This is Second Skin. Kira finds herself on Cardassia as a Cardassian. She is told she is called Ileana Gamor and was a Cardassian spy. And who is the character Entek? No, Entek was the bad guy, right? It was just like Gull Gamor or Leggett Gamor or whatever it was, who plays her dad.
This
yeah.
This is a Les Landau episode, directed by Les, our man Les. But yes,
more is less. Less is more.
I like this because obviously, Kira is Nana is a fantastic actress, and she's able to do so much in this show. But just the dilemma of her, her dilemma with the Cardassians, just back and forth with her and the Cardassians. It's been brought up in other ways with her, freedom fighting and being a quote unquote terrorist and all whatnot. And then later on ties with her and Ducat and the whole, her mother and whatnot. So this is a reoccurring kind of nightmare for Kira. Is dealing with this Cardassian complex that she's kind of wrapped her psyche into.
Right. And we had Nana Visitor as our guest that week, which was amazing because she loves this episode and she always has such great insights and she has such great takeaways from what she learned about herself or about acting in scenes like this and realizations about her own character. Like there's like actual growth in her character that fuels the actor or the actress to understand more about the character that they are portraying. And I forgot to mention that the week before in Equilibrium, we actually had for the first time Dr. Mohamed Noor as our guest. So
all right.
We're probably too busy talking about Mohamed and all the cool genetics and Trill stuff to really pay too much attention to the actual episode. But anyway, it was really cool having Nana join us for Second Skin. That was a great one. The next one was Abandoned. And this one was Odo tries to change the nature of a rapidly maturing Jem'Hadar infant. Quark finds whilst Sisko tries to break his son's relationship with a 20-year-old Dabo girl. Oh, sorry, the infant is what Quark finds, and Odo raises it, if you'll recall. And this kid was like, remember, every scene they had to get like a new actor to play this Jem'Hadar kid that basically becomes an adult in like 24 hours or 48 hours or something like that.
Mm-hmm. I remember this episode, yeah. And also gave you insight into just the Jem'Hadar, right?
Right.
Gave us a little bit of insight on that, how quickly they grow. And then I also remember Sisko, my dad giving me trouble, and he didn't like me dating the older girl.
Yes, thank you. This is the one with Marta, the Dabo girl, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think so,
this
yeah.
one is amazing. And he's just like, what are you doing with this 24-year-old Dabo girl? And you're like 11 or whatever it was.
He's like, no, she's too old for you. I don't think that's right fit.
Yes. Oh, that was great. I remember that.
Yeah. Good episode.
Mm-hmm. That was fun. I want to reread
and ironically, they're both about like maturing really, in front of your eyes, right? So
you're right. Good point.
Jake is maturing, and this baby that they found turns into a Jem'Hadar teen very quickly.
You're right. So the audience is seeing this Jem'Hadar grow up super fast, and Sisko is basically watching his son grow up what he believes is super fast or too damn fast.
Right.
And this was, by the way, directed by Avery Brooks. And I'm going to reread that premise just because the first time there were too many commas. It threw me off. It says, Odo tries to change the nature of a rapidly maturing Jem'Hadar infant that Quark finds, whilst Sisko tries to break his son's relationship with a 20-year-old Dabo girl. That's better. That one makes more sense. They should have put that in there, which makes it easier. The next one was civil defense. Oh, this one is great. Oh, this one has created so many memes in Star Trek fandom. The station goes into lockdown and the crew is endangered when an old Cardassian security program is accidentally activated. And this was when you would see the image of Gul Dukat popping up and saying, "Attention Bajoran workers." And then he'd say, "You have tried to escape, and now I will release tetrazine gas," or whatever it was. This was so cool because they're fighting against the station now.
Yes. And it was a fun episode to work on because I got some time with
Column.
Got to work with Column and my dad, and so that was fun. And yeah, the station basically was almost like some kind of a self-destruct kind of booby trap thing, and it was, trying to figure out a way to deactivate everything.
Yeah, this was when they were still prepping you to possibly become Starfleet before they made the switch and made you a writer and Nog Starfleet. This was when, this was like maybe the second episode or something where they're starting to touch on and hint that you're learning a little engineering from O'Brien. He's teaching you some things, there's something, something's going in that direction before they made the switch. And I remember, is this the one where you had to crawl through the Jeffries tube thing? And you guys were talking about spiders.
Yes, I think it is. I had to crawl up the Jeffries tube thing and get inside of the conduit or whatever it was. But yes, I think this episode, and I remember having a lot of fun with Colin on that because he's just such a fun guy and very lighthearted and he's amazing to work with. So the three of us together just laughed and enjoyed ourselves.
I've never met Colin, but everybody says that he's very different. I forgot who it was that said it, but they said in real life, he's one word, gregarious. And I was like, wow, I never would have thought, because he comes off as like this grumpy curmudgeon-y guy, but apparently he's not really like that in real life. But I wouldn't know.
No, he's not. That's just an act.
He nails it.
He's fantastic. He's such a fun guy.
Mm.
He's like Jonathan Frakes in his personality. Yeah. There's something similar there.
I love that. Like a young Santa Claus. Now, speaking of Jonathan Frakes, Two Takes Frakes, he was the director of the next episode, which was episode 8, Meridian.
Okay.
And episode 9 was we can't skip Meridian, I guess. Kind of want to. This was the one where Dax falls in love with one of the residents of a multidimensional planet, while on Deep Space Nine, an alien requests a holosuite program of Kira from Quark. There's a lot to digest with this one. This was the one where we were forced to believe that Dax falls in love with a guy within 2 scenes, which is impossible to convince the viewers of, but this is what you have to do as a screenwriter in order for this to work. So you can't really blame them for that, but it is hard to swallow that she was willing to fall in love and drop everything for this guy that she just met, who wasn't even all that hot, by the way. And the other side of that, if you'll recall, there was somebody trying to purchase this program from Quark that he wanted it to look just like Kira and be Kira, but, with a more submissive personality, I guess.
Yeah, this was a weird episode in general. Number one, like you said, it's just very hard to sell anybody in one episode that they're willing to run away with each other and get married and basically plan the whole future of their life and after one cup of coffee. Um,
Been there,
so-
buddy. Man, I've been there.
So that was hard for us. And then the other thing was that person was going to disappear for another 60 years, so she would never see them again or something like that. So
yeah.
It was
Sounds
just
good to
trying to
me.
talk about, it was just temporary love. It was a very, I guess that's the subject matter that they were trying to deal with, some kind of temporary love situation. But if anybody should be pissed about this episode, it would be Bashir, because he's like, wait a minute, I've been sitting here shooting my shot this whole time.
2.5 years. And this guy does it in 2.5 looks. 2.5 glances.
He didn't even say a word yet. Come
Yeah.
on, man. Seriously.
And Dax is like, yeah, exactly, Julian.
Exactly.
Uh,
Less is more. Less is more.
Yeah, so episode 9 was Defiant. Riker arrives on the station to requisition the Defiant in order to fight with the Maquis. Sisko assists Gul Dukat on Cardassia Prime to prevent the ship from entering Cardassian territory. Now, what's interesting about this one is it turned out it wasn't William T. Riker. It was Thomas Riker, his, what is it called? A clone, I guess, his double. Remember, he like pulls off the lamb chops and just reveals his goatee or something. And was it Kira that was falling in love with him? Speaking of which, in like 2 glances.
That was another thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you distinguish or determine which Riker is the real Riker? Like, since they're cloned.
Well, that's the thing. And they were obviously played by the same dude and they looked the same. They were exact replicas of each other because they were split in a transporter accident. So they are identical, except one is a lieutenant because he was gone on a space station for 7 years. And the other one that we all know and love is a commander. So they are identical and there is no way to differentiate the two, which was why he was able to show up and say he's William T. Riker and everybody believed him.
Well, they're not identical. I think I read somewhere in one of the
Here it comes. Here we go. I'm ready for it. I'm ready.
Never mind.
I knew something good was coming.
It was in the companion. It was somewhere in the companion. I think Thomas Riker's has smaller testicles. So that's how he has to prove himself. He's like, look, it's me, I swear.
Who's examining that, though? I'm not even gonna say. But yeah, I did hear that. That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's a definite thing. All right.
That's confirmed.
Yeah, everybody at home, don't blame Cirroc. Just Google it. It's all there. Because Lieutenant Riker was stuck on that space station for 7 years, so of course his are smaller.
Yeah, William Riker would have found a way out of there. He has the call. He used to get out of there.
Anyway, right now everybody's like, move on, you guys, move on. All right,
move along home.
We're gonna move along home. Nice. We're gonna take a quick break, and we're going to cover the rest of these on the other side on the 7th rule. So stick around, and don't forget about the testicle talk. Well, hello there, everybody. Welcome back to the 7th rule. We are serious now. With no more screwing around with Cirroc Lofton, by the way.
Hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and we are up to Season 3, Episode 10 in our Season 3 review extravaganza, bonanza, funathon. Episode 10, Fascination. When Luoxana Troi, oh boy, visits the station for the Bajoran Gratitude Festival, the crew is stricken with intense romantic attractions to one another. This was also directed by Avery Brooks. Wow, that's like 2 out of 4 weeks he was directing. That's a busy month for him. This was the one where everybody started suddenly liking each other. I think it was like Kira and Bashir and other weird combinations that we didn't expect. And who did you like, Cirroc? Jake was going after somebody. It was Kira.
Jake was after Kira. Yeah. Which I had no problem with. I thought it was very well written. Except
he's like,
to get
well, I got an intended outfit I want you to try on real quick.
That episode, 10 out of 10 for writing for me. That's you can do that as many times as you want, Ira. Fun episode. It's always fun to have Majel Roddenberry guest starring in an episode. She's such a pleasant person to be around, a sweetheart, and she was an amazing woman. So anytime you reflect on some time that you spend with her, you smile. It's it gives you a warm feeling.
I'm jealous. I never even saw her at a convention, as she's just, I never got
she
that.
Was just a lovely, she's just a lovely woman. She would just come in there and be so upbeat and positive and carefree, and just she was just amazing, intelligent, articulate, bright presence to have around. So a lot of love for her.
Now, we had a two-parter just kind of in the middle of the season, which was Past Tense Part 1 and 2. This is when Sisko, Bashir, and Dax are accidentally sent to San Francisco in the 21st century due to a transporter malfunction and must figure out how to get back to return without changing the timeline. Stop us if you heard this one before. You got to get back home without changing the timeline. This was the Bell Riots, and it's supposed to take place in 2024. That's why a lot of people thought that the newest season of Picard might have something to do with it, but it didn't.
Very good episodes. This was fantastic. I remember the police officer or whatever it was that was in there with them, giving them a hard time. He was a fantastic actor. Yes, the Bell Riots. What was the name of the character that he plays?
Well, let's see.
Sisko?
There was the rich guy was Chris Brenner, Biddle Coleridge, and who was the guy that we really liked? The guy that was kind of like starting trouble. I can't remember. He was like the gang leader. Was that Vin? I can't remember. Anyway, but yeah, the character you're talking about, he was playing Benny Russell, right? But then he ended up saying that he was Gabriel Bell. Oh, sorry, Benny Russell was Far Beyond the Stars, but Gabriel Bell was the character that he pretended to be at the end in order to keep the timeline going with the Bell Riots, which was a brilliant twist. And if I remember correctly, we did have for episode 1, for Past Tense Part 1, we had Robert Hewitt Wolf and Ira Stephen Bear. And for Past Tense Part 2, we had still Ira Stephen Bear come back. And it was just amazing to get their insights. And I remember Ira saying that he wished that there were like a bunch more extras on the last day, but they had spent their budget. And he said like that was like the scene that he was most disappointed in. But really a very powerful two-parter and very memorable.
Yes, and they dealt with homelessness. They dealt with civil unrest. And Sisko plays the hero in that episode, and I had some really good co-stars in that, guest stars in that episode that he was able to act opposite against. I thought they were good.
Vin was the cop, and Biddle Coleridge was like the troublemaker gang boss or whatever he was. But they just found such great actors for these roles. We loved it.
Yeah. Dick Miller was Vin. He gave him a great performance.
Yep. Ira loved him. The next episode was Life Support. This is episode 13. Dr. Bashir must use extraordinary measures to prolong Vedic Bareil's life long enough to allow Bareil to complete sensitive peace negotiations between the Bajorans and the Cardassians. Yeah. This was a good one. I mean, at least I thought so. I just saw the IMDb score. Some people didn't agree.
Yeah, it was Bareil trying to hold on to life and negotiate this peace treaty, whatever it was, and Bashir trying to save him and telling him, you can't do this. You can't do this to yourself. You have to lay in bed. One of those
He
moves.
sounds like Liam Neeson all of a sudden.
Yeah, sorry, I'm really bad at it right now. I got to watch it. But it's also remembered because I think Jake has a moment where he confronts Nog in that episode, right?
About the Domjot game, and they get in a little fight. They end up in the brig together, and I love that stuff.
Yeah, that was a fun episode.
Yeah,
and actually Jake stands up for I guess in this instance women because he's saying that Nog's misogyny is unbearable.
Yes, this is the one where Nog's like, she's so stupid, she's perfect, and you're like, I know that Aaron snuck out of that role right there, like that right there. That was him just laughing it up for a minute there.
Yeah, he loves the opportunity to do some comedy like that.
Yeah,
he's definitely shines in those moments.
Hilarious, really. Yeah, and especially because he committed so beautifully to that line. Hysterical.
It was hysterical.
Mm-hmm. Love those Jake and Nog moments. Love those. Do you remember shooting that at all?
Yes, I do. Yeah. And I remember his delivery because it's one of those things when you hear that you'll never forget it. So yes, she's so stupid. She's perfect.
She's perfect. Yeah. Okay. God, I wish we had more time to spend on these, but I guess we did. We had an hour to spend on these in the past, but I'm like, it's funny because I'm like, I want to talk about these longer. But then I remember, well, we did already. But you're right. We do need to go back on some of these and just, maybe the first 2 seasons or something, because they just feel like they deserve more, like I want to continue to explore them even more. They're just such good stuff. More.
Plus it feels different after having seen past the point of when you're watching it.
Yes.
It's like I want to watch it again now, kind of knowing what happens later.
That's exactly how I felt when we were watching them back in the day, was like, now that I've seen everything, it's really interesting to go back again and see where it all started and see what people came from, knowing where they're going. It's really interesting, really fun. So the next episode was Heart of Stone. After chasing a fugitive into a cave, Kira gets stuck and is slowly encapsulated by a growing crystal stone while Odo tries to figure out how to free her. This was obviously an Odo and Kira thing. This is kind of where they start to have a little magic between them, and Odo kind of professes his love or whatever. But this was also the start of a long character arc.
Yes. And very memorable because of the image of Kira kind of stuck in that rock. So you just kind of never forget it. And as it was consuming her, good episode. And Odo reveals that he has feelings and that he actually, cares for her, and then kind of says, "Oh no, I just said that to keep you alive."
That old trick.
Yeah. And also remember this episode really quickly that I believe this is the episode where Nog tries to join Starfleet. So I want to make sure we say that.
Yes. Thank you for reminding us, which is another reason why Heart of Stone, they always have these cool titles that usually are relevant to both the A and B plot. But you're right. This is when Nog finally professes his love for Starfleet and saying, I want to be in Starfleet. And Sisko's like, nope, get away, pal. But then he convinces him, and Sisko ends up, sponsoring him or whatever it is. Really, really important. Really important.
And it was a powerful moment for Nog's growth. And also he says something in there that kind of stuck with me too. He says, I don't want to grow up to be like my father. It was like,
yes.
It was a major, powerful moment for me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, God, see, I want to relive that one over and over and over again. These scenes and this episode. Wow.
Yeah.
But we have to move on to Destiny, episode 15. Sisko faces a conflict between his Starfleet duties and his role as a Bajoran emissary. We've heard this one before. When an ancient Bajoran prophecy predicts a joint Federation Cardassian project will lead to the destruction of the wormhole. Let me see.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was trying to remember if we had a guest on that week, but we did not. And this one was, this is another one of those Bajoran things that kind of come and go. But there was that Vedic Yarka. And Vedic Yarka was a problem, if I remember correctly. And they had this prophecy of the three vipers, remember? And they were trying to figure out what the three vipers were. And it turned out that it was not these three people, but it was these three asteroid pieces or something like that. There was like a really interesting twist there. So
it has something to do with like prophecy and misinterpreting prophecy and all of that stuff. And yeah.
And I remember really liking the twist at the end a lot. Even if you see it coming, it's still, it's always well delivered. Star Trek always does a great job of doing it the right way. Episode 16 was Profit Motive. Grand Negus Zek is acting bizarre by giving away money and rewriting the rules of acquisition. What? Quark attempts to get the old Negus back. This was directed by Rene Aubergenois, by the way. Do you remember this one?
Yeah, I do. And wasn't the Negus he had some kind of mental problem, like he was losing it somehow? They were covering.
Yeah, they thought he was, but I think this was when he was falling in love. We may have to, with Ishka, we may have to ask our pals in the free-for-all to remind us, because I don't remember what the final, what the answer was, what the twist was.
Yeah. This one, I remember Zek, Grand Negus Zek, and I thought he had some kind of medical condition.
Oh, how did that get there? Yeah. I mean, anything with Wallace Shawn is going to be a fun one, but they did have him quite a few times. I thought this was maybe the one where Ishka gets brought in, but we'll have to ask our experts on the other side. We'll move on to the next one, which was...
Yeah, it had something to do with the Prophets playing some games with Zek.
Yeah. This is... Oh, really? Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Visionary, which was episode 17. While a Romulan delegation tries to get information about the Dominion, O'Brien gets visions of unpleasant things that are about to happen in the future. Now, two things about this one. We had our friend Ethan Kalk, who wrote this episode and joined us as our guest. And also, this is the one that I like to say was my proudest moment when I came up with our YouTube title, which was because this was the one where, if you'll recall, Miles O'Brien is seeing in the distance, he sees himself from the future and about bad things are about to happen. So I called it Seeing Miles Ahead. And I thought that was so damn clever. And then I remember thinking, man, we're going to name every episode from here on out. We're going to name them such clever things. And then we just never came up with names as clever. That was it. That was the peak. That was the end of that. Yeah. But I really liked that episode. I thought it was a great idea. Great premise.
Yeah. And he could only see like just a little bit into the future. It wasn't like
from his point of view.
Right. Yeah. It was a good episode.
Yeah, I loved it. I really, that was one of those where I really liked the concept a lot. The next one was Distant Voices, After being attacked in the infirmary, Dr. Bashir has a dual mystery on his hands. What has happened to the station while he was out? And why is he aging so rapidly? Oh, yes. This was the episode where Bashir gets old and has to play old Bashir. Oh, yeah.
Old Bashir. I don't remember this one.
Yeah, he's just aging. There was like it was a Lethian, right? There was like this telepathic Lethian that was doing this attack on Bashir. And for me, I mostly remember just Bashir having to play himself as an older guy and dealing with that weird Lethian.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's all we have to say about that one.
And that's all we have to say about that.
Yeah. Hey, we can't spend 10 minutes on every one of these. Sorry, guys. We'd love to talk about Distant Voices, but we got to talk about Through the Looking Glass. Episode 19. Sisko is kidnapped and forced to impersonate his deceased mirror universe counterpart in order to convince Jennifer Sisko to defect to the Terran Rebellion. Whoa, this one was fun. Yeah, do you remember this?
I do. Yeah, I remember this one. He was trying to get her to, because she was like a doctor. She knew some kind of stuff, right? And he was trying to get her to defect to help. Yeah, I remember this episode. It was a good episode.
Yeah, and this was the one where he kind of, how shall we say, since he's playing the Mirror Universe Sisko, he's actually having relations with Mirror Universe Dax and Mirror Universe Kira in that episode, if you'll recall, Cirroc.
That's a great episode. I got to revisit that one again. Through the Looking Glass.
Yeah, Through the Looking Glass with a GL.
And Through the Looking Glass, isn't that a reference to
yes.
Alice in Wonderland?
Exactly. Yeah, it is.
Okay.
However, I feel like, shouldn't he tell? Look, he's playing the other Benjamin Sisko, but if there's a lady that's trying to hump you thinking you're somebody else, don't you kind of owe it to them to say, I'm actually not really him? Or are you like, well, this time it's okay because technically I am actually really him, just from an alternate universe. Like it's still the same person. I don't know.
Yeah.
Seems like he was doing her dirty there.
Yeah, but if it looks like you, if it walks like a duck, it talks like a duck.
Yeah, I think he was doing her dirty, but whatever. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay,
another episode.
Yeah. But I do remember you liking this episode very much. The next one was episode 20, Improbable Cause. After an attempt is made on Garrick's life, Odo conducts the investigation on who tried to murder the Cardassian Taylor and why. And again, directed by Avery Brooks. Wow, he was busy.
Yeah. Wow. That's like the third one already. Yeah. Garrick's always great. And
yeah.
And just getting a story with Garrick is you already know it's going to be good, right?
Right. And I think this is where we meet Enabran Tain, who turns out was not just his mentor, but his father. And the twist was that Garrick, no, that was another one. But yeah, this is the one where we meet Enabran Tain, of course, and he ends up dying later on. But the books do cover a lot of it. I remember there was one book called A Stitch in Time, written by Andy Robinson. It's my favorite Star Trek book, and it covers Garrick's childhood and youth and his situation with Enabran Tain and with Mila, who we met in one episode, but does end up being like his mother. And it's a really interesting book. Sorry, I'm straying us away, but it's a really good book, A Stitch in Time.
Nice.
Okay. So this was a fun one because it's Odo trying to piece things together, and any kind of, like you said, any Garrick centric episode is going to be a good one.
Yeah.
All right,
he's so good.
So we are going to have to hit
and the actor who plays Enabran Tain is also a good actor.
Yeah.
He plays well off of Garrick. I think the two of them have good chemistry.
To play a Cardassian, you got to find the good actors. I mean, if you'll notice, every time there's a Cardassian, we're always impressed by the actor because they got a lot of depth, and they really have to cast somebody.
Pick it up.
For these.
Yeah.
So we'll hit the free for all in a second here, and we'll talk about the final 6 episodes. But before we do, we'd like to give a very special thanks to Homer Frizzell in New York, Dr. Marie Segal, also in New York, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackmon-Tom, Carmen, aka Skillet, Tim Baum, aka Grandpa One, TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, Bill Victor Arucan. You're like, what? Titus Mohler, Darlena Marie, John Mann, Dr. Mohamed Noor, Tierney C. Dieckmann, Anna Post, Rex A. Wood, Anil O. Polat. There he is. Erica Strom, Joe Balsarotti, Mike Gu, the Enigma known as DQ, that's DQ, Neil Akasaka, and of course, Dr. Susan V. Gruner. All right, so I think it's time for the free-for-all, and we'll hit those final 6 episodes. God, I just love Garrick.
Sweet.
I'm looking back at this Garrick stuff. I just can't get enough of the guy. And he's got that very super memorable outfit in this episode, the gray with the burgundy 2 big stripes going down his chest. Anyway, we'll talk more about all these on the other side on the free for all. So stick around and always remember the 7th rule. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the 7th rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello.
This is the free for all. My name is Ryan T. Husk. We are joined by Anna Post. We have Neil Akasaka, all the way out in Nashville. We've got Tierney C. Dieckmann and everybody's favorite sun hat. And Melissa Longo is here in everybody's favorite 7th rule shirt. Oh, by the way, Anna's got a really cool Quark shirt. Quark's Bar. No. Exquisite. Did you get that at the Star Trek Experience in Las Vegas?
No, I got it over the interwebs.
On Amazon?
No, on the Star Trek store. It was, they had that St. Patty's Day special of like, it's where I also got my Cerritos flask.
Ooh.
Oh.
All right. So where were we, Cirroc? We were on, first of all, before we get to episode 21, we need somebody to help us out. Melissa, you can help us out with a profit motive. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
How did it end?
It ended with Quark negotiating with the prophets, saying that it's not a good idea for you to change me to be like Zek because my race is inquisitive and you're going to have more Ferengi come and bugging you if you don't turn us back to me and Zek back to the way we were, and we'll leave you alone.
Brilliant. See, and now we have a better appreciation for that episode, because that's right. That was a really cool. He kind of had like a negotiation and like convinced them. He actually used logic to convince them, and that was cool. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Cirroc, where were we? Episode 21, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay, so episode 21, as everybody knows, is The Die is Cast, now rejoined with his former mentor, Garrick is ordered to interrogate Odo about the secrets of his people, while the joined Romulan/Cardassian attack fleet moves toward the Founders' homeworld on a mission of destruction. If I remember correctly, it wasn't Romulan Cardassian. It was Tal Shiar Obsidian Order, right? Which I think is important to differentiate there. Do you remember that, Cirroc, when they kind of had like this evil, Tal Shiar and Obsidian Order task force going to destroy the Founders?
I don't know if it was evil. I think they were trying to be preemptive and like take the Founders out before.
They were the heroes of their own story. That's true.
Still, their initial mission was genocide.
Well,
tomato.
And they were trying to genocide them before they got genocided.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like a preemptive genocide.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so this was the second episode in a row with an Tain, right? Or second out of 3?
This is the second of a two-parter. The only two-parter, I believe, that has 2 separate names for 1 and part 2. So
Well, no, because we had Homefront and Paradise Lost. But maybe it might have been the first, though, because this certainly precedes that one.
Maybe that's what it is. Yeah. So yeah, Improbable Cause and then the cast.
Right. Both of them are about Tain.
Yes.
And Garrick's past and connection there, right?
And he joins them for a while there. Yeah, good stuff. I mean, anytime there's like a Garrick-centric episode, you kind of like lean in a little bit,
Okay.
Yeah. But I want to hurry up and get to one of my dark horse favorite episodes of all time, because Captain Sisko says in it, hammer time. No, he says, sorry, hammock time. And there's no way in the Prophet's wormhole that was in the script. There's no way that Ira Stephen Bear is like, oh, and we'll have them right. We'll put hammock time. There's no way, right, Cirroc?
I'm pretty sure he threw that in there. Yeah.
And they let him do it. That's a first.
They did.
Was it in the script for you to fall out of the hammock the first time, Cirroc?
I can't remember that. That's a good one.
Because it was a pretty good slip. It did not look.
It looked real, right?
It also looked a little painful. Like that set was magnificent, but it looked very.
Yeah, I'm not an expert at getting in and out of hammocks. So to this day, it's difficult for me.
Who is?
Yeah, who is? I don't know. It's not an easy thing.
Make an art of it.
Yeah. But no, I did have fun doing this episode. They built a little ship for us. And that set was really cool. It was tiny, but it was cool. It was actually hot, but it was cool. And I just remember being, in a closed space with him inside of that ship and having those moments together with him. Because usually it wasn't just the two of us. It was always like somebody else there, or in a situation where we're in, with company. But the moments where Avery and I got to be together and just the two of us are moments that I cherished. Yeah. And this was one of them. Yeah. Explorers.
It's definitely one of those episodes for me personally. When I look back at it, I got a much bigger appreciation for it on our rewatch, recently, because it's just so nice to see, like you said, usually it's father and son, but it's within the confines of Deep Space Nine or other characters, or Kira's there, or there's explosions. This was just an episode about the two of you, beating the odds and doing, going out and exploring and doing something crazy. I think it's such a beautiful and memorable episode, and I'm really happy that it was written, because it seems like one of these bottle episodes, they could take them or leave them. A lot of these bottle episodes never see the light of day, and I'm glad that this one did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the other thing that I thought was special about this episode was the fact that they were not relying on technology. They were kind of trying to do it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
And there's an art form to that, with sailboats and more primitive ways of traveling that have an art form to it. And I think that's one of the things they were doing with this. It was kind of the futuristic version of building a sailboat. I think they called it a solar sail. And I thought it was interesting, and also like the fact that Avery is wearing this kind of African tribal pattern vest in that episode.
Mm-hmm.
So that also sticks out in my mind.
I think it was also his first, the only episode in which he has a goatee and hair. If I remember correctly, I think this is the only one where he's sporting the double.
Right. The goatee and the hair with the African print vest. Mm-hmm. Very casual looking. And I also remember the episode, because of the lighting, because of the way the ship was designed, there were these grates, and the light would come through the grating in a certain way. Just created a nice visual effect.
Just the set they made for that episode is magnificent.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Beautiful.
Really beautifully done. And every time I see the real solar sails that we have out there now, this is what I think of. I mean, real solar sails are gigantic. I mean, they're miles wide, but this is what I think of for the future. Like, will we have this actually orbiting? Can we get actual crafts out there to launch from here that we can sit and go around? Can we do this like space dirigibles and get dressed up and have these magnificent sets? Because I would totally go in one of those. Like,
is this also Chase Masterson's first episode? It's certainly one of them, right? Might be one of Lita's first episodes for sure.
Oh, is this where she goes when she's trying to seduce Bashir?
That's funny.
She comes in the episode where the ship, I can't remember the name of it, that Elizabeth Lenz is on, the one who was the valedictorian in Bashir's class, and you get the
right.
He goes beep boop, and it just says go away, like immediately.
Oh my god, that was such a brilliant scene.
In handing it to her.
Yeah.
Oh, but was that the B plot to this one?
Could be.
It might be.
Oh yeah. It is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think this might be our first episode.
Yeah.
Anyway, very memorable episode. That's so cool, Cirroc, that you can remember actually what the lighting was like and what the set was like, because those of us, we can only just see it on a screen and it looks really cool, but you actually got to be in it. Was it a 360-degree set?
Yeah. No, it was actual. It was
so
a miniature.
cool.
It was a miniature ship they built.
That's so awesome.
Wow, that's crazy.
Wait, Avery didn't build that?
in 10 minutes.
Yeah, in between directing a couple episodes, he would just
build a ship.
Yeah, build a ship.
3 seasons worth.
Yeah.
But this was also the episode where Jake tells his dad that he wants to be a writer, and
It's a good growth episode.
Yeah.
Because remember, we were talking about just a few episodes prior, you were still being kind of raised and groomed and taught to possibly be Starfleet with O'Brien in that I forgot what it's called, but the one was Attention Bajoran
Workers.
What's that one called?
Right.
We just went over it. Anyway.
Civil defense.
Yes.
Civil defense.
Yeah. Good job. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So our next episode is Family Business. Quark and Rom return to the Ferengi homeworld because their mother has broken the law by wearing clothes and earning profits. Forbidden for women in Ferengi society. Boy, she's what a monster.
Oh, Moogie.
How dare she? What is she thinking? What do they do in the winter? Okay, so Cirroc, do you remember this one? They actually, I think this might be our first look at Ferenginar, where we actually get to see what it's like. It's always raining. All the doors are super short, of course. You know, what's his name's hiding in the closet. Is that
First
one?
time we see Brunt too, right?
Like
Liquidator Brunt.
Right.
Mhm.
I think so.
Mhm.
Yeah. This is actually one of the beginnings into the whole Ferengi culture, which they expand upon more and more as the seasons go on. But they're giving us real insight into this, you know, their culture, and specifically how you know women are treated. And I think it was a good episode.
Mm-hmm. Now our next one, I'm actually looking ahead. Oh boy, this is the one we were just talking about earlier today. Shakakar,
Yes.
or as Cirroc called it, Shakakar.
Shakakar.
This was directed by Jonathan West, who's the DP, pretty awesome. News arrives that Kai Wynn has also become Bajor's political leader. She asks Kira to negotiate with an old resistance friend about returning soil reclamators. Oh boy, that old soil reclamators thing. This is where they're like ambushed in that valley, you know. That was at Bronson Canyon, I believe, where we just went, Cirroc and I, last week.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember this.
So this was, and we also meet a couple of her other friends. I always forget their names. You guys remember their names?
Pharrell and Lupiza.
Thank you. That's exactly it. Yeah. Yeah.
Pharrell and Lupiza.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah, any episode with Kai Wynn sucks. For me, from my point of view. Sorry.
Yeah.
Can't stand her.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then let's just go ahead and move on to a non-Kai Wynn episode called Facets. Dax asked the crew to join her Ziantara ritual. The memories of whatever. The memories of her former host will take over their bodies. Nog is preparing for Starfleet Academy. I believe this was the one that was actually Chase Masterson as Lita's second episode, right? Mm-hmm. Because originally they were going to have, I think, Keiko do that part, but she wasn't available. The actress was not available. So that's why they said they had to give that role or that part to Lita. And so that's why they dropped like a little line at the beginning of the episode of like, oh, Dax has been hanging out with Lita more often lately, or they kind of like dropped that. And they did some kind of subtle thing to where we're supposed to go, oh, okay, then it makes sense that she would trust her with this after only meeting her once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
At least that's the story that we got. And I think that is accurate. But anyway, yeah, so that's when everybody's playing out all of her different, characters or the different hosts that she was, and they're all, playing them differently. Is this the one where Odo gets a fro?
Yeah.
Because he's playing Curzon.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He has spots.
Yeah. Oh man.
Is that?
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Good old app. Oh wait, Afrodo. Here it is. Pulling up the picture of Afrodo.
Afrodo.
Frodo Baggins.
Yeah.
Wow. Afrodo.
Oh no. Anyway, okay. So let's move on to episode 26, the final episode of the season. It is called The Adversary. The Defiant is off to show the Federation's presence to the new Zenkethi government. While underway, the ship malfunctions and repeated instances lead Sisko to believe a changeling's on board, engaging in sabotage.
We get
Yeah.
without his makeup.
We get what?
We get to Kenny Gamore without his makeup as Admiral Pressman or whomever he's playing as the changeling.
They killed Tikeni.
That was
It was bad, but also good.
Mostly bad.
They're usually mostly bad.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Yes,
And
Cirroc, any thoughts on this or memories of this episode?
No, not really. This is and usually the season ender is like one
well,
that would just jump out at me. What
It's-
was it about this episode? A changeling was on the station.
Yeah.
yeah.
It was on the Defiant.
And this is the episode where Odo becomes the first and only changeling to kill another
Exactly.
changeling.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And
yes,
we also
yes.
get a little bit of Michael Eddington, if you'll recall. This is
Forget
Eddington.
Eddie.
Melissa. Was that a groan of glee?
Eddington. I
Yeah.
forgot this was the first season Eddington was introduced.
Yeah.
I never
Yeah.
liked Eddington. He was always
That's
mm.
Yeah.
such a good last name to just
Yeah, it
be
is.
like Eddington. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eddington.
I'll never forget Cirroc's lines. He knew Eddington wasn't going to last because he's like, I don't remember seeing this guy at any of the parties. Who is this guy? He's not going to last. I don't trust this guy.
Yeah.
That's the best line ever. Okay. So that was the big series or season ender was that, Odo was the first changeling to kill another changeling, which is supposed to leave us with, ominous doom, like, okay, something horrible has happened and it can change Odo's life forever. And it can also make the Founders and the Dominion come after the Federation for all we know, So
Well,
there's
But they were the ones who initiated the infiltration. So, they were just defending themselves.
Well, he whispers to him at the end as he's melting into ash that we are everywhere.
yes, good
Yeah.
memory. Yes.
Everybody. So that's ominous as all hell.
Mm-hmm.
Given what they've already done damage. So
You're right that they left us with that. That's really good. Okay. So that was episode 26 of season 3. Let us talk about the highs and lows. I'm going to go ahead very quickly and read off the titles of these episodes for those of us that may not remember them. But of course, sometimes reading the title doesn't remind you what the episode was about. At least for me, sometimes I'm like, which one is that? And they're like, it's progress. The self-sealing stem bolt one is progress, right? Oh yeah, progress. Okay. So the episodes are The Search, Part 1 and Part 2, The House of Quark, Equilibrium, Second Skin, The Abandoned, Civil Defense, Meridian, Defiant, Fascination, Past Tense Part 1 and Part 2, Life Support, Heart of Stone, Destiny, Profit Motive, Visionary, Distant Voices, Through the Looking Glass, Improbable Cause, and The Die is Cast, Explorers, Family Business, Shakakar, Facets, and The Adversary. All right. So, everybody's looking at their notes right now. Look at this. This is crazy. Everybody's looking down. So, Melissa Longo,
Yes.
would you like to share with the rest of us your 2 favorite episodes of season 3, as well as one episode you think is underrated or doesn't get enough love?
My two favorite episodes in this, one of them is Heart of Stone. Maybe the reasons are obvious, but maybe they're not. But it's the episode where Odo reveals his true feelings about Kira, and not to Kira, although he thinks it is at first. And then, Nog says, well, I want to join Starfleet.
Great background, by the way. You've got your background all set up for it too.
Yeah, for facets.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah. And yeah. Jake, what are you doing outside of the runabout? So that one, and then I think I'm gonna go with one that's probably not gonna get picked, and that is Second Skin. That's when Kira is changed into a Cardassian.
Yeah.
And that is a pretty good one.
That was the one where they threw Odo like a duffel bag. Remember, they threw him like a duffel bag, and then he grows into a changeling and fights. And I was always like, if somebody hostile walks in and throws a bag next to me, I'm not going to ignore the bag. I'm going to think there's some kind of situation, like a bomb or something, right? You're not going to just ignore the bag.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And one that I think doesn't get enough love, I don't know. This is a tough one, because I'm looking on by IMDb, and there's so many that are underrated.
Yeah.
For this season, and there's so many good episodes in this season. I'm not gonna say Meridian.
What a relief.
What?
I'm not gonna say Meridian. Underrated.
Wasn't that singer from the 90s, Meridian Brooks? Remember? I'm a bitch. Okay, never mind. Go on.
Oh, that's
Meredith Brooks. Yeah.
Meredith Brooks. Yeah.
It wasn't funny. I'll edit that out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Taste in really funny things that, just like super obvious edit.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Explorers, because it's got a 7.2 on IMDb, which is nuts to me. The set alone deserves higher than that, and then the interaction between Sisko and Jake is beautiful. And then there's a magical moment when they reach their goal.
This
when they don't
moment.
When they don't realize that they've reached this magical moment, that they proved that the ancient Bajorans were in fact the first to discover warp. Unknowingly, but still they were the first to discover warp. And that's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. Take that, Cardassia.
That's how most discoveries happen. People are just going out doing something and they find something or achieve something. Great father-son episode. On a post, your thoughts? Do you have a couple favorites? Do you have an episode that just does not get enough love that you think is way better than what people think?
So I really do like Explorers. That's always been one of my favorites. It's really hard to pick a second one. Although maybe The Abandoned, I think, doesn't necessarily. I think it's very interesting what they do. And I have a hard time deciding if I like how it turned out or if I didn't like how it turned out, because the idea that it almost sets the stage that the Jem'Hadar can't change, but then again, what are you saying about?
It's not a good message, yeah.
Coding of people, right? Like it's very intriguing that that at first everybody like really is really trying to help this child. And as soon as they figure out it's a Jem'Hadar, like people start getting like up in arms and almost like change their mindset towards this thing. And it almost makes it worse that then the child, like does a child see that and it turns into, where is that defiant edge where people start looking at it differently anyway? And yeah, I always wonder how it could have been done differently, but at the same time, it's a very interesting concept with this baby that they think, they're going to help and raise and like turn gray, like ends up rebelling. But I almost wish at the end there had been some sort of grace in maybe still rebelling against them, but like a nice light where like leaving, I don't know.
Yeah. It's not the best message there, but they can save it by saying, well, this guy was actually genetically created. This was, this thing was created. So there's nothing they can do about it, I guess. And
I kind of wish there had been like some more ambiguous or nebulous end where there was the is here, isn't he type thing, but that's me.
Okay. Good stuff. Suddenly I'm depressed though, because I can
I'll do
sad, right?
Oh.
All right, Tierney, cheer us up. What are your two favorites?
Oh my. Well, I'd say one of my favorites has to be the two-parter with Improbable Cause and what was the second one with that?
Dias Cast. It's funny because when we said that, I made a prediction. I was like, Tierney's going to pick a two-parter as one of hers, but I thought it might be past tense 1 and 2 though.
Oh no, can't do that one. No, I usually can't do the let's travel back in time to.
Who's it? Grandpa One hates those too.
Present day. I mean, I can understand to a point. That one in particular, talk about depressing, especially now. Oh my god. And after watching Picard, I can't with that one. But no, I've always really, really liked this two-parter in particular. And I like the two-parters or even the three-parters because it rounds out the story as much as or more so as it to me should be. But this one with characters, particularly in DS9, it brings about more of the real life gray areas of actual people, whether they be humans or humanoid. We get this with Garak and Odo, and we move past the, for some reason now, indoctrinated, not now, all through time, that people just have to be black and white. There is good, bad, right, wrong. That really rounds out them very well. That vulnerability between the two of them, what Garak really wants, what he's willing to do, but how he's changed, how he has gotten closer to the people on the station, how he does care for Odo, how Odo he knows they're genocidal, but he just wants to go home. He just feels that pull. We all have that, even with some of the worst people in our life, the toxic people, we still have that familial pull. Sometimes we can't go. And then there's this beautiful scene at the end, which has got to be another David Livingston, after Garak's back in his shop, that he's, blown up, even though an assassin was already sent to kill him. He decided to blow up his own shop to get Odo involved in this thing.
So it was the one where he blows up his own shop. Okay.
Yeah, he
Thought so.
he already trusts
Very smart.
Odo enough to get him involved in what he knows is already happening, that he blows up his own shop to start the investigation. So he's there in the dark, and you don't even see Odo. You just see his silhouette in a reflection of a shattered mirror in the dark, and you see Garrick in profile. And they have this conversation. And at the end, after this hard thing of, he says, thank you for not including in your report that I just want to go home, for not sharing these vulnerabilities. And they have this understanding of who they are. And he says at the end, Garrick, we should have breakfast sometime. So
yes, that's right.
That.
Breakfast.
And because he knows he also has his lunch dates with Bashir. And Garrick says, but Constable, you don't eat. And he says, I know, and just walks off. And it's really
adorable.
Beautiful. It's just adorable, wonderful moment. And that's such a great episode. We get Mila for the first time, and you see
I love Mila.
I know, she's just great. And there you see that somebody there still cares for him, and he cares for her. Like it's wonderful all around. And it also shows how freaking ruthless the founders are too, and how the Tal Shiar and the Obsidian Order are. They're willing to join forces. They started that plan on their own, and then the founders got wind of it. So like there's some great things there with that episode. Also definitely I really like I kind of go back and forth between a favorite. I was gonna say Visionary, the one where we get it's I think the main O'Brien Must Suffer episode of the season, where
it is
the more Romulan shenanigans and the Klingons move in. So we start that. I like the time travel aspects of that one. It makes me think that O'Brien's got his own version of temporal lobe epilepsy. It's just temporal in a different way. So kind of relate to it and laugh at it, but more just there. It's that they straight up kill our timeline's version of O'Brien and just replace him with a different one. That's people seem to forget that we have a totally different O'Brien. But, I just like that.
It's the same O'Brien.
It's seeing miles ahead.
O'Brien. Yes.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, it depends on how you look at time and how you want to deal with it. But what I'd say is the other favorite is Fascination with when we get Loxana again, for a few reasons. And I don't know if I'll ever get a chance to get it to Nana or anybody with that would know. This is completely silly, but Nana wears this gorgeous silky long cardigan thing that's this tie-dye watercolor thing that I want the hell out of. And if I ever get to ask her, I want to know where it is, if costume department made it, or if it's off the rack. I want it. I have looked for one for years. I'm going to find it. But more just that when I first watched through this again, years ago, sorry, if you hear yipping, my Keiko is dreaming.
It's Melissa.
She's on the chair behind me, and she's in the middle of a dream. Loxana comes in to this, and I thought, rewatching, that they were setting this up for Loxana and Odo to get together, because as much as I love Odo and Kira, and the setup made sense, and every time I watch them get together, I get all giddy and I want to cry, and I love their relationship, and I don't want him to go back to, spoilers. But it may be controversial, makes more sense to me in some ways to put Loxana with Odo. I saw her becoming a recurring character when I first rewatched through this.
That was the original plan.
As an adult, the age-wise, regardless of if he was supposed to be in his 30s as a humanoid form, it was Renee Auberjonois. She had seen and his vulnerabilities and shown her vulnerabilities to him. She didn't care how uncomfortable he was in the not caring way, obviously, but just was okay with him all the time and wanted him to be more open with everything. It seemed like a relationship that made sense. She came to him when she needed help and he helped her back. I mean, we know watching through this what he's done for her, etc. It made more sense to me. It still kind of does in a lot of ways. And when you know more about the behind the scenes of Odo and Kira's relationship and how Nana and Renee were, it still makes sense. But I do love that episode. And it's fun too. It's a nice respite from all the stuff surrounding it. It's hysterical. And Sisko gets punched in the face by Barial. He just punched right in the face. And Sisko is just like, Barial, like doesn't even react to it. And then Jedzia beats the shit out of him. Like, it's a fun episode. So anyway, yeah, those are some fun ones there that I very much appreciate.
Do you guys agree that Luoxana and Odo were a good match?
No.
I think they complemented each other well.
They did say nice things, yeah.
I don't know how long they would last. I think at times they were almost too similar. I think Luoxana kind of hit it well, but I think they were both souls that had their hurts, and I think they found comfort in each other, but I don't know if that would necessarily translate into a romantic love as much as a
mutual respect.
Yeah, like a
nurturing.
Yeah.
Like interesting. What do you think?
Compatible soul, I guess, or whatever.
What do you think, Neil? And also, do you have a couple favorites and a dark horse?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to think about, because like when I think of, I think it's a different season, but like, you know, when I think of Odo and oh my goodness, my brain is blanking.
Luoxana?
Thank you, Luoxana. Yeah, like when I think of them, I think of the one scene or episode where they're in the turbo lift, and I think the turbo lift was broken, and I just remember, you know, all of their exchanges, and I remember thinking that it was an interesting pairing. Like it kind of caught me off guard, I remember thinking initially, and then I could kind of see how they might be drawn to each other for different reasons. You know, it wasn't something that was in my head to begin with, but then, you know, as I kind of thought about it, I could see, oh yeah, maybe. But I think I do agree that maybe in the long run, maybe it would be one of those things that ultimately wouldn't work. It's hard to say. It is hard to say.
And do you have a couple favorite episodes, and maybe an episode that you think just doesn't get enough love? You think Meridian should be a 9?
Oh, Meridian. Yeah.
Melissa, it is not that funny.
No, with the pain in Cirroc's face too.
Okay, that's funny.
It's so funny. I don't remember being impressed by Meridian, particularly the first time, but it didn't stand out as like a you know, particularly bad episode or anything. But then like I was kind of going through in preparation, and I was just trying to refresh my memory, and I saw like a lot of comments and stuff that were out there, and I was like, oh, I guess, you know, there were some valid points. I guess I hadn't dwelt on that episode really that much, you know. But for me, maybe, okay, so was House of Quark Was that the episode where Quark was like sort of not like mind controlled, but was that the one where somebody?
No,
was
that
helping
was the
fight?
next one with Quark.
Yeah.
With Grilka. That was the
Okay.
next one. This was just the first one with Grilka where he first meets her and is forced to marry her.
Okay. There it is.
Forced
Yeah,
into
because
marriage.
that's the one that stood out. So again, sorry, wrong season.
That's okay. Cirroc and I have been
But,
doing that dance all day. Is this the one? No, that's the one.
Yeah. Well, then maybe I appreciate that one just for the setup, you know, because it leads to a lot of fun and also, you know, interesting exploration of, because there's such different cultures, right? Like the Ferengi and the Klingon. So I think I always enjoy whenever there's this very drastically different cultures and how they like interact with each other.
Totally.
And I love that. And I also appreciate, as others have also alluded to, but you know, one of the things that makes DS9 like my favorite, you know, in the entire Star Trek universe is just that how they, you know, there was not really, to me, it didn't seem like there was a fear to really explore like the darker areas of human nature or the more complicated things, like nothing's like black and white, or a lot of things that, you know, and just I really appreciated that. It felt a lot more real in a way, you know, to see all of that explored. And there were a lot of relatable elements. And I just, not that I don't love the other, you know, Treks, but this one, yeah, it's just has a really special place in my heart.
Definitely. Cirroc, Lofton, before we go, you have a couple favorites or an episode that maybe doesn't get enough love? Give us the correct answers. We've all made guesses as to what the correct answer is.
No, there are no correct answers. It's all about what you feel and what moves you. But I would second a few of the things that have been said. One of the explorers stands out for me in this episode, in this season. Heart of Stone, I like that as well. Melissa, I think that's a memorable episode. I also like House of Quark as well. So I like that one, Neil. I thought it was a good episode, and I love Grilka, and I like the way. What I liked about Grilka was that she was essentially a really strong woman that was able to tell, you know, Quark how it was about to go. And I like that because it's good coming, especially from, you know, to Quark's character, who's already has his built-in chauvinism in his persona, for him to have to bow down and actually, you know, listen to a woman for once in his life was actually pretty good. So I also like past tense. I know you guys talked about Tierney. You were saying you don't like the past, you know, episodes going into the past, and I know Picard kind of stumbled around 2024, where this whole Battle Riots thing was supposed to be going down. But I do think that this episode was good, and I remember Avery's performance in Past Tense 1 and 2, and also the guest stars in that episode. And I just remember him giving a really strong performance, and so for that reason, I enjoy it. And I guess, you know, overall, we're just getting really good character development. We're starting to get the budding relationship of Odo and Kira. We're getting to see Garrick's kind of murky past. We get to see Nog venture off into Starfleet and begin his journey of identifying himself, you know, and creating his own identity outside of his father and his culture. So I think there's a lot of Jake taking a step up and saying, "Hey, I want to go into writing and on journalism," and
that's right.
Confronting his dad on that front. So I think we're getting a lot of growth in the characters. Odo finding out about the founders and more about himself. this season, that's what I walk away with. Them setting a lot of foundational work for what would be to come eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's a good point. Like looking back on the whole season, it feels like seasons 1 and 2, they set up all these characters. And then in season 3, they all took a hard turn. You know, Nog decided to go into Starfleet, whereas Jake went in the opposite direction and decided to not go into Starfleet. Odo starts to profess his love for Kira. All these changes, we find out that there's all this crazy stuff in Garrick's past, and Grilka marries Quark, and there's just all these things. Suddenly, it's kind of like the rule of three, and Cassidy.
Yeah,
excellent.
Introduction of Cassidy,
right?
Thanks to Jake Sisko.
And Marta, we got Marta. And Lita the Dabo girl shows up and turns into Lita, the Lita of the Ferengi Empire, the Ferengi Alliance. She's the
Empire,
the co-Lita. Lots of big changes. I think my favorites might be Past Tense and Explorers. Explorers is just such a great father-son episode in a franchise that doesn't really have very many father-son episodes, and there aren't many father-son episodes in television overall. And it's just such a nice, heartwarming one. It's like, we don't need every episode to have Jem'Hadar. We don't need every episode to have like a crazy battle or twist. Sometimes you think you want that, we think that when we're first, watching shows, but when you look back, the ones that seem to be the most memorable oftentimes are Explorers or The Visitor, and episodes like that, where it's if it's an important moment in the character we like's life, right, then it ends up being an important episode for us too. And for me, I think Explorers might have actually been my favorite episode in that whole season. Anyway, time to close this out, everybody. So we'd like to thank Anna Post and Neil Akasaka for joining us, as well as Tierney C. Dieckmann and Melissa Longo. And we'd like to thank all of you at home for joining us. Please remember to give this video a like, give it 5-star rating if you're listening in, subscribe to the channel, do whatever you do, share it with your friends, give it to people for Christmas or their birthday. They say, "What'd you get me?" You say, "Look, here's a link, watch it." And then they're like, "What a cheapskate.
Fun.
Boring." Anyway, thank you all for joining us. And until next time, next one, by the way, is we're going to be jumping into season 4, if you can believe that. And we'll see you then. Until then, always remember the 7th rule.